With it finally hitting Netflix instant streaming, I have now seen The Last Jedi. I'm going to give you my review, air quotes on the review, of course, of Glow Season 2, and in a Patreon exclusive, the Capital Gazette Attack. I've got a lot to complain about, so let's get to it.
The recently canceled podcast with Von Fry.
Hey, how goes it? Well, there's no beating around the bush. Quickly after it was posted, I saw that Netflix had dropped Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi on us. And I know so many people have been begging me to see it, and I was running out of excuses with it being right there in my face on Netflix instant streaming, and it's soul-crushing. Possibly more so than I had been given the impression. Yeah, I've seen many of videos on it, so much of it didn't surprise me. And I'm going to have to make my own video on it, and I think the results of that will be interesting to you. So expect that in the coming week or so. But for the most part here, I want to talk about Glow Season 2. This is the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling original scripted comedy on Netflix. I enjoyed Season 1. I thought Season 1 was pretty funny. I thought it was interesting seeing these non-wrestler ladies try to develop their personas, get a ragtag team together, try to get a show off the ground. But like with many of these Netflix originals, Season 2 is a problem. So far, the only Season 2 I've found redeeming in a Netflix original series has been Stranger Things Season 2. If you hear this clicking around, that's ice from a Yeti Rambler. Got some Mountain Dew in there. See, Stranger Things Season 2 is actually an improvement on Season 1 because they ran out of source material to rip off. So therefore, they had to actually come up with an actual story, instead of just picking and choosing from the collective works of Stephen King and Steven Spielberg, so much so that they couldn't actually be sued because, oh hey, it's not quite Goonies because it's also E.T. Yeah, little shit like that. Oh well, but it's not E.T., it's also It. There was so little original that once they ran out of stuff to ape, they actually had to come up with something original and tell a compelling story. And I thought that's what Season 2 did. But here with Glow, our problem is that their concept was a one-season thing. I think a lot of these people are coming up with ideas for shows, and we'll call this a web series because let's keep it real, it's not on TV. They have a web series idea, but they don't really see the end of it. They're concerned there may not be a renew, so where do you go from here? Let's come up with a good, solid first season and hope for the best. So we have these gals getting their stuff off the ground. Alison Brie, Betty Gilpin, Mark Maron is the reluctant B-grade horror director turned or / reduced to women's well, it's supposed to be like cable show, but or local TV. Almost a children's program, wrestling. So he's in charge of the presentation on TV. We see some characters brought more to the forefront, while some fade away. There are some things that don't make a lot of sense, and though 10 episodes deep, about 30 minutes per episode, the last episode I think is 45 minutes-ish, I can't tell you a whole lot about what happened in each episode. It seemed very thin on material. At one point, Zoya, the Russian heel of the group, she, played by Alison Brie, has her leg broken, her ankle broken by Betty Gilpin's, what was it, I'm thinking American Made. The patriotic bitch, okay? And then they spend the next episode in the hospital with just time padding, waiting for the doctor. Did they really need a parade of people to come in and be like, hey, I'm helping you wait for the doctor? What kind of bullshit was that? And then the whole episode is actually there, and, oh, I'm sorry I broke your foot. Like, it didn't make a lot of sense. Oh, but the next week, we get a straight-to-air version of the show, like as though we were watching a VHS recording of their Glow presentation with a few local ads put in. In some ways authentic, maybe not quite 1985 authentic. And it's hard to tell when this takes place because sometimes there will be pop music that shows up, but it's always in the closing moments of the episode, and sometimes it'll be from like the wrong years. I think in the very last episode, Starships and We Can Build This Dream Together starts playing, and that's from 1987. Was this in 1985, like the first season, or 86? I think it's supposed to be in 1985 still, because they mentioned Charles in Charge being canceled. At this point, it was somewhat in vogue for a show to get canceled, but then picked up as first-run syndication. So it's kind of weird. But maybe that's what they were going for here too. Like, they wanted out of their little local TV thing, and they wanted to get picked up by some bigger networks or syndication run. They try to build up some hype. But the whole plot of the entire season is built on inability to read. It's, oh, hey, Britannica, you couldn't read this thing? You didn't know that you don't have a social security number? Of course you don't have a social security number. She's British. Oh, well, go down to the consulate and ask for a green card. Oh, you didn't get that. Well, reading, why? Oh, hey, I couldn't read my contract, and now I didn't realize that all of our characters are owned by the little local news company, or, well, local TV studio. Everything came down to, oh, hey, we have a contract and we didn't read it. That's our plot points. It's very odd. At the very end, they're like, oh, hey, you didn't realize that we own all of your characters, so you can't have a TV show, but please carry on with your house show here, It's a good performance for you gals. And then Horatio Sands shows up, who, by the way, I kind of recognized. I was like, maybe that's not Horatio Sands. Maybe that's some guy who looks a lot like him. And he's like, yeah, so I own a strip club, but I also own some club in Vegas or something like that. And we're looking for some show. We have like a 1,000-seat arena. Yeah, you guys can do your show there like every night. Whatever. Okay, cool. Can you do wrestling like that in Vegas? If people are not in tune with the storyline, repeat customers, how can they keep track of where it all goes? I think that a weekly TV show is a better opportunity for putting out wrestling storylines. Now, granted, I'm not Jim Cornette over here, and I'm not going to tell you about the territories and all this stuff. I'm just saying it's easier on the casual viewer who is not constantly buying tickets to go see specific show at a specific event, night in, night out, to put together these storylines, okay? So, is that even a good place to leave this off? This felt like season 2 is actually series finale. Hey, we didn't get our wrestling show, but we kind of do. It's not going to be on air, but, we still have something, and we can build the stream together. That's where I don't see anything else coming from it. So they have the contract locked down, and they can't have a show aired. End of, right? Oh, but we have some development here and there. Some of the gals I liked from the first season are fleshed out a little bit more. Like I mentioned, Britannica here, she doesn't have a green card, so she has some plan to marry a fan for some publicity, and thus be allowed to stay in the United States. And that goes okay. They have their send-off show is started out as her wedding, but she rejects the fan, who I think was the catcher from The Sandlot. I know I've seen him in like some kind of raunchy American Pie ripoff type stuff in the early 2000s. But in the last second, this guy Bash, the producer of the show, he jumps in and is like, hey, Britannica, marry me instead. I've been pining for you, but I didn't know how to tell you. Now, here's the weird thing about this. through several episodes of the season. Now, Bash was just kind of like this weird party guy, season 1. And he seemed to have some connection with Carmen. There seemed to be some kind of weird interest, and it's like, oh, they don't look like a couple. She's this big, butchish, shall we say, gal, and he's this pretty boy, millionaire, playboy type. They don't look like they belong together. Well, season 2, he has this friend / butler named Florian, who is entirely off camera. I think he was available in season 1. As I looked it up, I'm like, who the hell's Florian? It says there was an actor playing him in season 1. So Bash's butler, Florian, is his close friend, and he died, and they said technically of pneumonia, but we can't get the body, and there's some complications, and it's an allusion to AIDS. That's what it is, okay? But they don't want to say the AIDS word. And we also have this scene where they go into a nightclub. Bash is with Carmen, and I think it's Britannica. Maybe it's one of the other gals, Melrose. Goes into a bar, and it turns out to be a gay bar, and he's freaked out. This goes on and on. Like, there's several shots put into a sequence of him being uncomfortable around the gay club. And there's weird little other tales, and it's like, okay, so was he the lover of Florian, and now he's concerned he has AIDS? And this brings out another scene where he has his entire house like scrubbed down, and like, yeah, we've done this before. We know the whole routine. Like, what, someone dies of AIDS, and now you have to disinfect the whole house? So, is the idea here that Bash is actually gay, and he's still keeping the secret here, and so Britannica's the beard? I think that's supposed to be the payoff in the long run for season 3. Because otherwise it's a giant waste of time, because there's actually a good deal amount of time devoted to this. Betty Gilpin's character seems to be brought up a lot more. We have a lot of scenes of her dealing with being separated from her husband, finding out that his secretary is the new gal for him. She's pretty much a jerk to everybody, but on stage she's the face. She has a fake daughter kind of kidnapped by Zoya, and that creates a storyline, but you don't really care too much about it, in part because the wrestling quality here is minimal. I mean, there's some gimmicks, there's a lot of talking it up, but if you're watching for wrestling, you're not seeing much of it. The only person who really does any wrestling in the whole season is Betty Gilpin. She has a few moves. She has the crucifix, this other like move where she wraps her legs around the guy's torso and then gives like this Eagle Scout salute type thing. And I think she does the suplex. She does a hurricanrana, which ends up really sloppy, and the guy doesn't follow through correctly, and then he throws himself on the ground. But you're supposed to believe it. But there's no other real wrestling. So you're watching a show about putting on a wrestling show that's half-assed with the wrestling. So why don't you just go ahead and watch WWE? Burn, right? That doesn't really add up as far as the appeal here. I think this is a wrestling show for people who are not that interested in wrestling, but they want to see girl power. And if you want some girl power, well, get ready for your Me Too episode, Time's Up. Because everybody's got one of those in 2018. Yeah, Time's Up hit this show pretty hard. You know, we got some pretty good amount of cast boob in season 1. Not so much here. You get slight side view on Gilpin and see-through from a couple others. And, you know, that's the scaling back. That's the Me Too reaction right there. We got locker room scenes that are shot in a way that they're self-censored. That's what we have going on. And we also have a scene for the whole Time's Up casting couch scenario. Alison Brie's character, Ruth, goes to talk to this guy who runs the network, they say. So I guess they have the local affiliate and then they have the network. Like, so suppose the guy runs NBC. I'm just throwing NBC out there as an example. I'm not saying any of this went down, allegedly, none of that. Not saying it. She visits the guy. They're meeting up for a restaurant. Oh, well, he doesn't eat in the restaurant. He has the food brought to his room on the premise, whatever. Oh, okay. She goes in there, sees the local affiliate contact guy with him, and then that guy's like, hey, I'm going to go get some menus. And it's like, oh, isn't he come back with menus? Nah, he's not. Hey, why don't you show me some wrestling moves? Put me in a headlock. Oh, no. I guess I get to put my face up to the boobs, and yeah, so how about we, no, I don't want to do it. And then she leaves. So that this can trigger your, let's talk about it more, and someday girls are not going to have to do this type of stuff, but until then we have to do what the men want because the men have the power, but it's going to be different someday. We had to get that lecture so that if you are a guy watching this show, you're evil. Shit. With every show having one of these, hey, let's highlight the Me Too times up. Hey, we have an entertainment property and we're not going to do a times up episode. What are we thinking? We have to do our little times up episode so we can get our Emmy nomination. That's what this is all about. I'm sick of this shit already, and we're going to see more of it. Come fall TV, shit is going to be leading off with Time's Up, Me Too, all up in their premieres. You wait and see. So that was annoying as all shit. One of the characters I liked a lot in the first season, Carmen, the big gal, she is, well, she's shown in the first season to be the only one who knows the wrestling move. She teaches the other girls wrestling. She doesn't really grow from there. It's kind of unfortunate that she is the wrestler but can't win the title. Is really in the background, but a very likable character, but maybe one-dimensional in that way, because we just see her as this likable good girl, and so little comes of that. She doesn't have a spotlight episode. I also liked Justine, who was revealed to be the long-lost daughter of Marc Maron's character, after Marc Maron tried to hook up with her in a funny scene. But I like Marc Maron's I don't give a shit attitude. He's probably the most charismatic, funniest element of the show in season 2, which is distracting because it's supposed to be about the women wrestlers, and thus it highlights how unfunny women are, that you then had to bring in a funny guy to give them some kind of comedy. Do you see the problem here? I actually like Justine, though. I think her name's Britt Baron. I think that's her stage name. Her last name was utterly unpronounceable, so she goes by Baron. She doesn't wrestle this season, but she's his teen daughter, so she's hanging out, and she's in the AV club, and she inspires Dad and helps edit shows or whatever, acts in some bits. One of the more talented athletic gals left season 1 to go do like an action show, Cherry. And then you see that she's not a good actress. She's a stunt lady, and her delivery is all stilted. So she ends up coming back to Glow with a new persona. And that was interesting. But her character was replaced. Junk Chain. I'm not sure what a junk chain is, but there is a Chola Junk Chain. Is it Chola, right? Hispanic gangsta lady who is a stripper that does some popping and locking, and so she brings something new to the character as she inherited the character, and Cherry becomes like black magic. So it was interesting to see some of these characters change and evolve, but some, there's still some mystery there, like Sheila, the wolf gal. Nothing added beyond what she got in season 1. That's a downer. I don't know if there's much more left here. It looks to me like the foregone conclusion is Ruth has to hook up with Marc Maron because they both have similar ideas and they have this opposites attract thing going. but he has a sweet spot for her, and she's kind of falling for him, but panics and hooks up with another guy in the last minute, but he's kind of cool with that because he'll hook up with anything too. So it's kind of like two jerks end up together, right? Because who else is left for them? Do we need to see that play out? Is there enough hype around this for it to actually get secured to season 3? Because I don't think this was hitting a lot of these award milestones. Like, does Netflix say, hey, we have to have a certain level of hype, a certain level of prestige come in for us to give a shit about clearing a season 2? I haven't presently heard any word about, season 3 being approved yet. And as you look at it, suppose who the hell is this for? Like, a non-wrestling fan trying to watch wrestling is a pretty big ask. Oh, well, I like it because girl power. Is there enough girl power here? I just told you that the funniest element here is a guy. So doesn't that make the girls look weak by comparison? This is an issue. Like, I have not heard of a season 3 coming. A lot of times they'll say, oh yeah, it's already greenlit for a season 3 before season 2 starts, to give you that kind of confidence boost that you should go ahead and binge watch. I don't know. And like I was saying, if you're jamming to the sweet 80s songs, they're coming in the final seconds of the episode. So if you hear Missing Persons, Life is So Strange, 15 seconds later, you're going to be getting the credits. So it's like, oh, hey, it's showing me that, you're just going to do a little musical montage and then cut to the credits. Okay. Orange is the New Black Redux right here. Girl power. Male-dominated genre. Prison. Wrestling. Season 1 better than Season 2. I mean, any more similes here? Whatever. So that's going to do it for the free version of the recently canceled podcast for this week. If you are a Patreon contributor, just $1 a month gets you the full access where I am going to bite into the Capitol Gazette attack.